Oh, I better walk upstairs to my video. Oh. Hello! Welcome back to a video with Miss Abbott. This week, week 3, we're going to be looking at our analog to digital time. I'm just going to give you a bit of a refresher at what that looks like, okay? So remembering our analog time, that's when we have our clock face with our 12 numbers going all the way around, and then our digital clock is what we are kind of used to. It's on our hands a lot and our wristwatch. Digital clock has those 4 numbers in the little digital format. All right, so we're going to have a look at what digital time looks at today and how it goes from the analog clock to the digital clock. All right, so let's go. Okay, first up, of course, is o'clock. Now we know that on our analog clock, our minute hand, when we are talking about o'clock, is always pointing up towards the 12. So our minute hand or the long hand is always up pointing towards the 12. Now, on a digital clock, you'll see on the digital clock it has our 2 zeros here, okay? So when we go from the analog clock, our long hand is pointing at the 12, and on the digital clock, it always has the 2 zeros here. So if it was 12 o'clock, it would have 12 and the 2 zeros, okay? Pretty simple. Nice easy refresher to start off with. Now let's look at making our way around the clock. Quarter past. Now this is the concept that we've been learning in the last few weeks. Quarter past, making its way a quarter way around the analog clock. Let's have a look at what it looks like. When we have the minute hand, when we're talking about quarter past, has made its way a quarter of the way around the clock, 15 minutes, and is pointing towards the 3. All right? Now, when we're looking at the digital time, we have our 15 here. Why do you think it is 15? Wait a second, Miss Abbott, you crazy lady. The long hand was pointing at a 3. Why have you got 15 here? I'll tell you why. All right, if we go back to the analog clock, and our long hand is here on the 3. Our minute hand, our long hand, has made its way 15 minutes around the clock. How, do you ask? Well, if you look here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's 5 minutes past. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 minutes, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. So 15 minutes have passed on the analog clock. So on the digital clock, it has 15. Let's have a look at that again. So whenever we're talking about something that's quarter past, on the clock, it has, on a digital clock I should say, it has 15 in the minute section. So remember, this is always the hours, and this is the minutes. All right, let's move on to making our way around the clock to half past. All right, nice easy one. We know this by now, that when we're talking about half past, our minute hand is always on the 6 because it has made its way halfway around the clock. All right, now let's have a look at the digital time. What does it look like when we're talking about a digital time for half past? Here it is. So it has, in the minute section of the digital clock, 30, the number 30. Why is it 30? We talked about this in our other video when we're talking about half past. So our minute hand has made its way halfway around the clock, okay? Halfway around. In 1 hour, there is 60 minutes. So in half an hour, there are 30 minutes, all right? So that's why we have 30 minutes on our digital clock when we're talking about half past, okay? And sometimes we even call it 6:30 or 4:30 or 4:30. There's all these different ways that we can say the time when we're talking about half past, okay? So there we go. There it is, 30 minutes in the digital clock. Next up, of course, we have quarter to. Quarter to. I wonder what that looks like. All right, on the analog clock, our clock face here, Who can tell me where our minute hand sits when we're talking about quarter to? If it's quarter to the hour. Okay. I wonder, did you say the 9? I hope you did. Okay, so our minute hand should be pointing at the 9. At the 9 here. Okay? Our long hand, so our minute hand should always be pointing at the 9 when we're talking about quarter to. What does it look like on the digital clock? Let's have a look. What? Why is it 45? What? That doesn't make any sense. It was on the 9 before. Wait a second. I'll explain it. Let's bring it back. Okay, we're on the analog clock again. We know that our minute hand has to be on the 9 when we're talking about quarter to. But why on the digital clock does it say 45? Where does that number come from? Well, we've got 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, and 60. Okay? So, looking at our clock, our minute hand has made its way around 45 minutes around the clock. 45 minutes. Which means it only has 15 minutes left until it reaches to the new hour. Okay? So this is why we say quarter to. We have a quarter of our time left until it reaches the hour again. Alright, so on the 45-minute mark is where we have our quarter to time. Alright, so that's where we get our 45 from in our digital time. Okay, so whenever you see this time on a digital clock, you know that it is quarter to. Alright, okay. Now that kind of concludes our bit of our refresher. And in your packs this week, I have a lot of activities for you to do where you're converting analog time to digital time, okay? So make sure that you remember that if it's o'clock, 0, 0. If it's quarter past, it's got the 15 because 15 minutes has passed. When we're talking about half past, halfway around the clock is 30 minutes. And quarter to, this is a tricky one, quarter to is 45 because 45 minutes have passed. Alright, this week there's a few activities there for you to go through and convert that time from analog to digital time. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to give Miss Abbott a call or a little bit of an email. I'd love to hear from you guys. Keep it up, you're doing an amazing job. I miss you so much. Please come back to school. I'm going a bit crazy. Alright.